Hey guys, Chris Woolley here. Now that we've photographed the background, let's hop into Photoshop and look at how to select the best image now that we've seen them all, any retouching that we need to do, as well as prepping the file for background printing. Okay, let's hop into Photoshop. So I've loaded up all of the images that we've taken into a background stack right here. So we can see all these different images loaded up here. There's 5 of them. So we can flip through. Soft, this one's a little bit more in focus, sharp, way blurry, and somewhere in between right there. And of course our background layer here. So how do we decide which one of these is going to be best? Well, I like to cheat just a little bit by giving me a point of reference so I can see if it looks nice or not so nice. So I'm going to drag in an image that I took of my wife and I, and let's get that popped in here. And I want to extract us so that I can get an idea of what this background is going to look like. Now this is a smart object, and so I need to come over here to the selection tools and find the one that has like the magic wand or object selection. And I'm just going to hit select subject. And now that the subject is selected, I just have to create a mask on it. So here we are, we're cut out. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good for a point of reference. So I might frame it or compose it like this. So now with this up on the top layer, I can toggle through these and see which backgrounds I like. So let's make this a little bit bigger. I don't mind that at all. Looks pretty nice. This one, I think it's a little bit too sharp. Starting to lose some of the details that are there. They're becoming a bit distracting. Everything's in focus now. Way too sharp, way too busy. Yes, it looks like I'm out there, but it's pretty sharp. Super, super blurry here. If we were doing like a tight headshot, like zoomed in, whoa, never look at yourself that close. Zoomed in, it could look pretty nice for doing headshot, but for having the versatility of a printed background, that's too much blur that's there. This one, also a pretty good balance here. So I like the first one and the last one better. I'm going to toggle on that first one. It looks like they're just about identical. So I evidently like that area of focus. Between the two of them, this one's a little bit brighter. This one's darker, maybe a cloud passed through. I'm going to go with this darker one. I think that's the winner here. So I loaded these all into a stack, and this is a smart object. So all I have to do is double click it, and that's going to open up the native file. So however big your camera takes them is going to show up here. And because it's slightly out of focus, intentionally, if you were shooting with a low megapixel image, it's not the end of the world. Anything above about 12 megapixels is going to be totally fine for this. So we've got our base image here, and now I like to look at it and kind of evaluate it and decide what do I need to do. So I'm going to create a new blank layer on here, maybe switch to a pen tool with a bright color, and I'm just going to circle the things that kind of bother me. I don't like those lights there. That guy kind of sticks out towards a little bit. I don't like these. That's a little bit distracting. Maybe that one too. Something going on there. And all of this feels a little bit too bright. So those are the key areas that I want to focus on. I just like to circle them so that I can look at them and remember them and don't forget anything. Okay, I'm going back to my base layer. And let's start with these guys up here. So I'm just going to create a new blank layer and bring up my clone tool. So I'm going to change the blending mode on the clone from normal, which it probably is by default, down here to darken. I'm also going to make sure the opacity is low, somewhere around 15%. The flow. The opacity is 100%, flow is at 15%. And because I'm in darken mode, I can sample an area like these trees right here. Just get a nice sample, and I can start painting over these highlights. That's looking pretty nice. Because it's darkened, it's not going to be painting over the branches, but rather just where those bright spots are. I'll come over here, just kind of paint over that. Look at that. That looks pretty good. Let's tackle something else. I'm going to do that as a new layer and say, hey, this is kind of the same thing. I want to darken it down, so let's get that, and maybe that one just a little bit too. Doesn't take a whole lot. Let's do a new one. And now I've got some stuff here, but it's got light and dark tones. So I'm going to change my blending mode from darken back to normal. And I'm just going to sample this base here where that shadow is and just line up my shadows right there and paint up. Look at that. That tree's gone. Maybe something over here I don't quite like. Let's go sample right there. Just a quick paint. Doesn't take much. Let's get rid of these guys too. We can decide if we like them or not. I'll put that on a new layer just in case we don't want to move them. Come up here. paint that out. And we're here. Little bit of clone. There we go. That's looking pretty good. So let's check our area so far. We got those 2 areas. I'm preferring it without. Got those ones cleaned up. All of this, just this bright spot's the last thing we have. So let's create a new layer. And I'm going to change my blending mode from normal back to darken, because I want to darken this stuff and not affect the tree, which is already dark. So I'm going to get a pretty big brush here and sample right over here where it's got some good tones that I like. I'm just going to paint that. Just painting out that area. Over here, painting it. Notice I can get pretty sloppy and up next to that tree, and none of it's really bleeding into the tree. A little bit so I can mask this out just to make sure that it's how I like it. And we're coming up. Oop, I'm on way too hard. Let's get that brush hardness down so we don't see any of this. There we go. Now I can paint that out. So nice. Just very soft and simple. Look at that. That looks great. Toggle that back on. All the distracting areas are gone. We're done with that top layer. Let's do that, and let's actually flatten this image. Okay, so we can come up here, just layer, and we're just going to flatten this image. It's what we need. All right. So now we need to get this into an actual size for our background. So I'm going to open up backgroundtown.com. That's who I use for printing these backgrounds. And on their website, like they sell all their normal stuff. You can see that under the categories and everything. But I'm going for custom design because that's what this is all about. So custom design. And now we can look and see the different options that we have here. And there's a bunch of them. So the new fab is kind of like a printed material, like a heavy duty paper that feels kind of waterproofy, something that like a FedEx package would come in. I don't really like that. Maybe if you're doing mini sessions or something, it would be okay. But I want something that I can use over and over again. So I'm going to use the Ultra Cloth. So this means that it's going to be wrinkle resistant. The printing's going to look gorgeous. It's going to have the rod pocket. Basically, it's everything that we need in a background. So Ultra Cloth is what I want. Next thing we're looking at is our size. So important note, the first number is going to be the width. The second number is going to be the height. Okay, so we are wanting to have a wide background, something that's going horizontal, not something that's going vertical. So something going horizontal. So I want a wider first number. And I'm going to go with a 10 foot by 8 foot. I've got 8 foot ceilings, 10 foot wide. That's going to fit up pretty nicely. And so that's the size that I want. Note, it's 120 by 96 inches. Okay, so that way I know what size I need to have my final image. So we're looking down here to the design specs, and they have it listed. We need to have an sRGB as a JPEG at 150 DPI. Okay, so that's what we're after. We need to be at 150 DPI. Let's jump back into Photoshop, and let's create a new document. I'm going to go File, New, and let's create something. I've already got the numbers here, but let me show you a cool little trick. So we know that we want to be 10 foot wide, right? Let's say that we're really bad at math. You can just hit the asterisk button, and now we can say how many inches are in a foot. There's 12 inches in a foot, so we're 10 foot wide by 12 inches. Click it. Photoshop's going to do the math for us. Let's do that again. So we're going to be 8 foot tall, asterisk, 12 inches in a foot. And look at that. It does the number for us. So we can come over here, and we can create this new document. And we've got it. It's going to be the right size, image size. We can see 120 by 96. But you know what? We don't need to be at 300. We only need to be at 150. So let's change that. So we are 120 by 96 at 150 DPI. Okay. Good thing we checked that one, huh? We would have been too big. Okay, so now let's resize this one. And we can go image size, and we can adjust our settings here. This is going to be wider image. It's not an 8 by 10 ratio. We're a 2 to 3 ratio. And so I know that my height is going to be the short edge. So I'm going to go 8 by 12 and get my height to that proper one. And look, the width is 144. So there's going to be some cropping that happens. But remember, I only have to be at 150 DPI. So we can change that. And let's go ahead and hit OK. Now that it's resized, I can just take this. I've got the move tool. I'm going to take it and drag it to my background. And look at that. It fits vertically perfectly. So now I just have to worry about the horizontal placement. So where do I want it? I really like this tree. It gives me a sense of depth and some character to this image, so I definitely want to keep that inside my image. I could have it maybe a little bit closer to this edge, but I want to leave a little bit of room, so just get it where you like it. I like something like this. I think it works out pretty well, and this will print up as a beautiful background. So now all I have to do is just save it as a 10-foot by 8-foot spring background, and it's going to allow me to go to Background Town's website, and I just upload this backdrop. It's super easy. They'll ship it to me, and then we can shoot with it. So stay tuned for the next video. After this actually gets into my studio, I'll show you how to light it and how to do all the fun studio stuff so that you get an amazing image done on this printed up background. Thanks, everyone.